911 operators of Reddit, what is the pettiest reason someone has called 911? Yeah, I'm in England. We had a call. I worked for the ambulance service, asking where the best place to get a bacon sandwich was at 4 in the morning. I received a call on the non-emergency line from a 90-something-year-old lady asking me what lamp she should put in her bedroom. I told her I did not understand and that the sheriff's office was not the correct place to ask. Eventually she got upset and said fine, I'll call 911, they'll help me there. I tried to tell her that 911 would just go back to me and it was a misuse of an emergency line, but it was too late. 15 seconds later 911 rings, I answer and lo and behold it was the lady asking what lamp should I get for my bedroom? People in major cities have been known to call 911 during blackouts because they've never seen the Milky Way before and I guess think it's some toxic cloud or something. The number for Domino's Pizza. I told him he wanted 411, directory assistance in the US, not 911. 911 was for emergencies only. At the beginning of COVID, people would call 911 to rat out their Chinese neighbors, Canadian-born, only because the pandemic started there. In the city where I live, if there's an Amber Alert beeping on your phone at 3 a.m., people will call 911 to bitch about it to the operators saying that it woke them up. Woman called because her pregnant 14 or 15-year-old granddaughter who lived with her and whose bed was the couch, wouldn't get off the couch so she could use it to watch TV. The woman felt very indignant when I asked what exactly do you want the police to do? Officer cleared the call with she's got nowhere else to go. Grandma said it's okay for her to stay. Also, lots of ambulance calls for I have a stomachache, which was code for I need a free pregnancy test. A friend of mine is a police officer and once told me they've had people call 999 over whose turn it is on the PlayStation. Plenty of old people call 911 because they just can't rationalize who else to call when something happens like a power outage, but they're usually very nice and don't seem to understand that 911 isn't the place. That said, had a guy call 911 because he lived in a gated community, and the gate was stuck, open, like, it wouldn't close. Nobody was trapped or anything, and he said, and I quote, "Well, I don't have a number for emergency maintenance, so I figured you guys would know somebody?" In general we also get a lot of calls of suspicious people that's just guys sitting in his truck for a little too long. Always really pisses me off to talk to the nosy ass people who are so paranoid of everyone that they waste my time telling me the black dude just doesn't look like he belongs here. People who get cut off in traffic are probably the worst inane callers, like, oh so this happened 3 hours ago, you don't remember the road it happened on, you don't know the registration of the VOI, there was no traffic crash, and there is not even the insinuation that either party involved were under influence of substances? Noise complaints are similar, people calling the emergency line to complain about being arrested earlier, one once complaining about being charged for abusing the emergency line. I've had a woman call emergency because their sister was refusing to share their food, at a cinema, but what is probably more insane is the serious incidents that are started by inane and petty things. Once had a serious FDV between a mother and daughter. The mother stabbed the daughter after an argument over the color of cupcake batter. I'm not a 911 operator but here we go. When I was in college 90% of my professors were retired or still serving police officers. I was studying police foundations. One of the instructors was telling us about an older lady whose husband had recently passed away. She was dialing 911 every day because she was lonely and wanted a police officer to come and keep her company. They had tried explaining to her that 911 was for emergencies only, but she couldn't help it. To her, she was alone and wanted to have someone with her so it seemed like an emergency. Eventually my professor was the one to respond to the call, so he went to her house and sat with her. She made tea and put out some cookies and they sat and talked until he had a call. In his eyes it was public service, so he made a deal with her. If she agreed to stop calling for this reason, once every rotation of shifts, approx once a week, he would go to her house and have tea and cookies. She never called 911 again for that reason, and every week he'd stop by and have tea and cookies until she passed away a few years later. He finished the story saying something like this: "We should never forget that although law enforcement is a big part of our job, public service comes in many forms." A lady phoned 911 because neighborhood kids were riding their bikes over her front lawn and she was concerned that they would ruin the grass. Fireman here. Last week I listened to a dispatcher send EMS and police to a house because the man couldn't get a hold of his doctor by phone. At 9 p.m. on a Sunday, the first officer on scene cleared the call in seconds, said he left a message on the doctor's phone and the guy was happy again. My co-worker answered a call asking how badly the bridge was backed up as they had diarrhea. I had a guy call 911 just because he wanted to see fire trucks and ambulances with lights and sirens. He miscalculated. There was a cop too. And he was not amused. Dude spent the night in jail. Not a dispatcher, but when I was in EMS we were dispatched to a psych call. When we got there, this lady was standing outside her house ready to go to the hospital. On the way to the hospital I was talking to her and trying to get her vitals when she told me there was nothing wrong with her, that she heard a family member was in the hospital and needed a ride, so she called 911. Cops met us at the hospital for her. I tutored a second grader many years ago for extra money. There was some assignment where the question was about when it is okay to call 911 and the kid, seriously, told me that it's you forgot to bring your homework to school. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more daily videos.